it looks like you came from a pretty serious of operations, if I'm not mistaken, corporate background. How did the genesis into doing sort of e-commerce come about?
So there were a number of factors. Totally from a personal standpoint, my sister had breast cancer at a really young age, and at the time I was living in upstate New York running an agency. And that was a driver, first and foremost, to get back to Chicago, which I did pretty quickly, which is how I landed back at Epsilon. But also I think it was, it was just one of those, and by the way, I should mention she's 6 years post-cancer, doing great. But it was also, it was enough of a life event for me where it got me kind of rethinking what do I want to do with myself. And part of that was professional. So I started looking into different entrepreneurial avenues. I was at Epsilon for 2.5 years, so it didn't happen overnight. I was kind of exploring things the entire window there. Some in the nonprofit space, some for-profit, certainly not all pet industry. And ended up identifying what I felt was a good opportunity in an industry that I was very interested in. And that's kind of how we launched it.
When you were coming up with the name, did you make sure that, and specifically because you're going to be doing e-commerce, did you make sure that PupJoy.com was available, or did you come up with PupJoy first and then figure you'll worry about the domain later?
No. The actual first iteration, sorry, just moving around a little bit. The first iteration of incorporation was under kind of a name just to get things started off. And I assumed it wasn't what we would want to do with the name of the business long term. I ended up buying the domain PupJoy.com because after landing on the name. So kind of the genesis of the name, and went through a number of iterations, is I wanted something broad enough in its kind of umbrella to be able to scale over time. At that point, which goes back over 4 years ago, certainly had an idea of where I thought the opportunity was and where we may want to take the business, but it was also early enough stages where I didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves into anything. So even though we, kind of the first proof of concept of what we were doing was subscription box concept, I didn't want anything that pigeonholed us into just being identified as a box. And frankly, I've also acquired a lot of domains if the day comes where we want to expand beyond dogs and into pets more broadly. So anyway, I bit the bullet very early stage to go buy a domain from a woman who was a dog breeder, and had a lot of a personal attachment to the name. So it took some money and took some time, but we managed to get it.
And when you were testing the idea, did you originally build out like a Shopify site or some kind of WordPress site with e-commerce built in, or did you build out a full-scale site right away?
No, so the very first couple things we did with any kind of public face to it. One is I built a site on Squarespace, which I would consider more of a glorified online business card than a functioning e-commerce site at all. And that was just to have a face to what we did. And then we ran a Kickstarter campaign, and the Kickstarter campaign had a lot more to do with getting feedback to be able to help inform what we wanted to do with user experience than it did money. It was nice to get a little bit of a jump start with some money, but really had to do with that.
So when you started PupJoy, did you dive in 100%, or did you maintain your full-time employment and sort of transition out of it?
Nope, dove in 100%. And my partner, Bill, who was just calling. So my partner joined within about 2 months after that. So really, we launched this thing all in. And, I know other people do it, trying to split attention between a full-time day job. But we were we were committed to what we were doing. And we just made the decision that we were at a stage in our careers where we'd each done well enough to have a little bit of a financial cushion to be able to do it. And we were going to really give it a try. And, kind of our assessment was, worst case, if we crash and burn after a year, then we go back and get jobs for other people. But we didn't feel like we could do what we were trying to do if we weren't all in.
So how did you gather the items for the first PupJoy shipments?
I will say it was a lot more difficult then than it is now. We attended a local pet industry trade show that they used to have in Chicago. It's no longer here. It was called Backers. And that was kind of like our first, and it was one of the smaller ones compared to like Global and Super Zoo, which are huge. So we went there, we shook a lot of hands, met people, and were making a lot of phone calls at the time. And, you know, I wouldn't say it's not easy coming out of the gate. You have no history, nobody knows who you are. We really had to rely on connecting with people at that early stage. So we had a number of suppliers early on who were willing to work with us. Without any track record. We treated them very well and vice versa, and got into ongoing working relationships with them. And we paid for everything up front.
So once you were online and you have some product to put in the boxes, did you have an initial customer acquisition strategy coming out of the gate? I know now you use a lot of your customers as marketing, but pre-customers, did you have a strategy?
So, I mean, the short answer on that is yes and no. I came from a marketing agency background, so the concepts broadly of some of the things we wanted to explore, and the notion of kind of test and learn through incremental testing, certainly not a foreign concept to me. However, I had spent years of my career directing teams, directing the people that were actually doing the work. So, it was a shift to roll up my sleeves and learn how to do a lot of things that I'd never been hands-on with. And we were scrappy. So we were, early stage, not huge budgets. Everything was coming out of our own back pocket at the time. So the first iterations of acquisition were mainly social media. Did some Facebook advertising, of course, some organic stuff. That quickly, in fairly quick order, transitioned into a little broader approach where we've done display media, retargeting. We use affiliate partners, social influencers, and certainly, yes, with our customer base, we've had the good fortune of we make a lot of people happy, and those people are generally pretty open to telling their friends about us. So we certainly, we're thankful for that and encourage it where we can.
Did you trademark the name right away, or did you wait to see if you were going to have traction or even be successful?
We trademarked it really early. It would have been within a couple months, I think, of launch that we had PupJoy trademark. Or well, we had the process in place. It takes a little while to get it back, but yeah, we did it very early.
And then at what point do you go from putting the boxes together, I believe you said in your co-founder's living room, to getting a warehouse and looking at bringing on staff?
It was I think it was between cycle 3 and 4 that we moved all of our physical operations to a third-party logistics partner. We made the decision to do that really early, arguably earlier than we needed to, for a couple reasons. One, out of all the background that my partner Bill and I brought to the table, the logistics operations was the area where we were weakest. So we wanted to make sure that we had the business in the hands of experts, and as we were growing and scaling, we learned the right things to do. And we did at the time, and we still sit with this position that we can always make the decision to internalize our operations if and when we want to. But our growth plans at the moment still are anchored around having good third-party logistics partners to handle the bulk of that. We're now on our second partner as we've kind of grown up a little bit, and probably we'll continue to evolve on this front. But it's a really important part of what we do, especially the level of personalization we have around our operations. So there's been a lot of focus on, one, working with a third-party logistics partner to make sure the processes they have are really sound. And secondly, the technical integration, so we can take a fairly complicated data environment in terms of enabling customers with a lot of choice and try to optimize that operationally as much as we can.
And I know when you were first coming to market, you had a successful Kickstarter campaign, but besides that, have you largely bootstrapped PupJoy, or have you gone through seed funding or Series A or anything like that?
So I would consider what we're doing right now seed funding. So we took on a small amount of angel money along the way over the last couple of years, which is almost like a pre-seed type of friends and family. We just brought on our first large strategic investor within the last couple of months. We're really focused on the heels of that, of building a lot of ground up, rebuilding all of our technology, going through a little bit of rebranding, a lot of product focus. We'll continue that raise, so it's technically open. We're just not actively raising at the moment. We will raise a little bit more, and I would call this our seed round. And then we have a forecast out where, depending on where we go with the business, we're probably looking at least an A and a B round over the next 5-year window.
And the idea of a customizable PupJoy box is brilliant. Have you guys always offered that sort of as part of your unique selling proposition, or is that something that came in, maybe a few months in?
So, yeah, so let me step back to kind of where we started, and then I'll wrap on and actually where we're taking this. So when we started PupJoy, part of the entire reason we started with a subscription box offering was a thesis that where e-commerce was going, where subscription commerce is going, was headed in much more of a personalized, tailored direction. So part of the light bulb for me, as I was kind of in a mindset of exploring entrepreneurial ideas, was at the time, I was a busy professional. I used a number of subscription services, as did my wife. Trunk Club, what is now Club W, or what is now Wink, it was Club W at the time, for wine. Blue Apron, my wife used Stitch Fix. All of them had they were heading in a direction of levels of personalization. Stitch Fix using much more artificial intelligence. Obviously, Blue Apron, Home Chef, I've used them. Much more in a profiling around menus. So, and at the time I was an early BarkBox subscriber. So I thought the concept was great. I also had 2 dogs where a BarkBox type of homogeneous theme didn't work real well for them, dietary and toy types. So there's a little bit of a light bulb of why does something exist in the pet industry that's more customized? It didn't. So then it really was kind of a light bulb to start looking into why not, where are there opportunities, and as dug into some research, really identified what I felt was going to be a lot of green space in the pet industry with all the market dynamics that were going on, shifting consumer behavior, shifting demographics, and a lot of movement out of bricks and mortar online, and a lot of what I felt would be movement to more personalized, transparent type of models online, because that's what you were seeing a lot in other industries. And I think ours in the pet industry lags behind a few others a little bit, but you're still tapping into the same consumers with the same buying behaviors and motives. And as it's becoming much more commonplace and expected to have rapid shipping, to have companies know about you and be able to tailor experiences to you. So anyway, that was kind of our thesis of where we thought there was opportunity. Going at it first with a subscription box offering allowed us to test that to some degree and also do it in a way that wasn't terribly capital intensive. So it allowed my partner and I to basically do it out of our back pockets, get to a point where we could raise money at a value that we thought was appropriate to be able to scale the business, and that's where we are now. So the real transition and evolution of where we're going is moving from primarily a subscription box offering and the most customized version in the market to a highly tailored continuity delivery model that incorporates a lot of auto shipment, some curated kits where it would be more subscription box-like, all wrapped around very deep profiling of customers where they want to. So allowing us to know them and be very good at recommending products that make sense for them. And then what we are literally trying to do is arm the consumer with far more flexibility than anything that exists in online shopping for pets.
And what has been have you had any major struggles as you try and grow?
We have struggles every day as we try to grow, but I think probably the biggest struggles that we have seen, and I anticipate will continue to some degree, very early stage, nobody knows who you are. So just getting in front of people, getting awareness, however you can. And as much as your customers can be that voice for you, it's great. Learning our way in the space was early stage of struggle. Neither one of us came out of the pet industry. We were both pet lovers, but I'd spent a lot of time in different industries, but pet was never one of them. So we needed to get our sea legs, so to speak, with how to navigate the industry. There's the constant challenge that I don't think will ever go away of how do you acquire customers profitably. So being able to manage that equation between the cost of acquisition and lifetime value is always important to us. And now we're getting, these are the fun type of challenges we have. We're now getting into more challenges of how do we scale, and how do we build the next iterations of what we do. So when we started, we were a customized subscription box, and we've gotten better at what that has been over time. Since then, we've also developed a commercial offering. So that we had to learn and are still learning to navigate the waters of what commercial buyers want comparatively. And now we're in this phase of building out a much broader offering of what we do and starting to incorporate a lot of private label PupJoy products, because our goal is kind of twofold, is to deliver customers or businesses that serve them the most convenient experience online for them to buy goods, and to provide them with a lot of unique offerings and a level of trust where they know whether it's a PupJoy branded product or any of the suppliers that we work with, that they can always trust what they're getting. So a little bit of a Whole Foods type of mentality to online buying for pet goods.
With the PupJoy branded products, do you have to visit every factory that's creating toys or food for you to make sure they follow along the same ethos that you have?
Short answer is yes. So as we started into this to test the waters a little bit, anything we have done and have launched to date has been co-branded offerings with some of our favorite suppliers. And we are going to continue down that path with some of our favorite partners of co-investing and co-developing unique recipes, unique toys, unique formats for things. And we will start rolling out within the coming months a line of PupJoy private label as well. So yes, us making sure that who we're getting it from, the source of stuff is very important, but the entire end-to-end manufacturing process, we really hang our hat as a business on customers trusting us, delivering them the best of the best. So anything that we put our name on it becomes very important that we are putting stuff out there that customers can have ultimate trust in.
I'm sure, because you spent the past 4 or 5 years building this brand name, PupJoy, and all it takes is one bad toy or one dog to get sick from a kibble, and you're almost back to square one.
Yes, and I think that's always the risk of going the route of having your own line of products. However, we also feel that for us to really be in a position to offer our customers unique stuff, those kind of two paths of developing stuff that's purely private label and co-investing with some of our favorite suppliers to do stuff that's unique is part of what positions us in the market of I can get cool stuff from PupJoy that I'm not going to find elsewhere.
I'd love to know how you got involved with the Bissell Pet Foundation. Or I told you I'm in Puerto Rico, and there's an estimated somewhere around 200,000 stray dogs on an island that's only 100 miles long. So we have tons and tons of rescue and rehoming. So I was very impressed to see that you were involved with the Bissell Pet Foundation.
Yeah, so they're wonderful. When we launched PupJoy, there were a few core kind of pillars or axioms that we knew we wanted to do with business, and one of which was a built-in structure to support causes that were close to our heart. So at the moment, we are very focused on animal rescue. As we scale the business, there's an opportunity that we may broaden what that umbrella looks like. But as we started, we worked independently with rescues. And at our early stages, we didn't have a lot of money to give away, but we wanted to have it incorporated into what we do. And for a while, we worked with North Shore Animal League out of New York. They're wonderful as well. We got introduced to the Bissell Pet Foundation. They happen to be local in the Midwest. They're up in Michigan, so they're close, they're drivable distance. We got introduced to them. We went up and met with them, and we were convinced that they would be an ideal charitable partner for us, and they have been just that. There are a couple things that I love about them outside of they're just really, really good people that are behind the scenes there. One is it's 100% pass-through of money that goes to them that gets distributed out to over 4,000 rescues and foster organizations. So for us, there's a lot of efficiency in that. We're able to centralize our donated funds, and they get put to the best use, and nobody's taking any off the top for administrative expenses. And that generally is able to happen because the Bissell Corporation funds the administrative component of the foundation. And the second thing is where they distribute their money. One, it's a broad net of over 4,000 rescues. Secondly, I think they're doing all the right things to help get animals out of the system and into homes. So they have large scale adoption events, some of the biggest in the country, where it goes multi-states, and they're able to really support moving animals out of the shelters most in need. And they also support kind of the underlying aspects that can create challenges in it. Microchipping, spay and neuter programs, supporting foster rescue. They do a lot of grant giving. So they're just a wonderful organization, and they make us much more efficient in what we do.